Okay. The Taming of the Shrew is one of Shakespeare's funniest plays. But let's not forget that it's tremendously sexist. It's happening at a time period where, obviously there was a different social situation, particularly when you talked about marriage. Okay. And so it's an old kind of British thing where one daughter goes out into society, and then she has an opportunity, and then she gets married, and then the next daughter can come out into society. We covered this a little bit in Brit Lit. If you with Pride and Prejudice, how all 5 daughters were out in society at once, and everybody thought it was shocking. In any case, so Baptista Minola has an older daughter, and her name is Kate, and she is horrible. She's a frigging nightmare, okay? Kate is loud and obnoxious and mean, and she scares people, and so Kate is crazy, right? And nobody wants to marry her. Nobody even really wants to be in the same room as her. And then he's got a younger daughter named Bianca, who is adorable, cute, everybody's interested in her. And so from the very beginning of the play, there's a group of men who want to hook up with Bianca. But she's just not allowed out in society. He says, if anybody has anybody who wants to marry Kate, bring them by. If any of you want to marry Kate, go for it. She's all yours. But as far as Bianca, not till Kate's married. Well, he does say that if anybody brings any could bring him or find him good teachers for his daughters, he'd be all on board with that. And it would, help him make up his mind later on. All right, so right about this time, this new guy comes to town. His name is Lucentio. And Lucentio and Tranio's his servant, are coming to town to go to school. All right? And so Lucentio, right from the beginning, starts testing his servant because his father sent this servant to keep an eye on him. There's another servant too, Biendello, but he's a clown. Okay? So he might be the smartest one in the play, but he's the clown. But he's not there to watch anybody or take care of anything. He's there for comic relief, and he falls down a lot. So Lucentio, from the very beginning, starts testing Tranio. He's like, so I guess we should study all the time and never go out and never do anything. We should just lock down and focus on work and studies, and that's it. And Tranio's like, yeah, well, I don't know if we have to do that. I mean, and so after a little bit, he kind of decides that he's going to be able to have a little fun. And he's looking for a girl. And so they're here in Padua, and they see right off the bat these 2 suitors getting harassed by Kate. She's screaming things at them. You've also got Baptista Minola yelling at Bianca to get inside. And anyway, Lucentio falls in love with Bianca immediately, because everybody does. And so he tells Tranio that they have to figure something out. Okay? And so right here at the beginning, Lucentio takes off his classy garments and gives them to Tranio, his servant, and tells Tranio that he has to pretend to be him and to convince Baptista to let him marry Bianca. What is Lucentio going to do? He's going to disguise himself as a school teacher and move into Baptista Minola's house to court Bianca, since that's the only way you can court her. Well, the other two guys who are interested, they're not happy at all when Tranio, who is now pretending to be Lucentio, comes rolling up to the house asking about marrying Bianca. And so, of course, Baptista Minola says, heck no. And the fake Lucentio gets together with the two other guys who want to marry Bianca. Gremio, who is usually this old man, way too old for Bianca. You got to imagine she's like 15 or 16, and this is like an old man. And then there's Hortensio, who's kind of a ridiculous character. So Gremio and Hortensio, all right? These are the two other guys who want to marry Bianca. They get together with the fake Lucentio and decide that they are going to pay someone to marry Kate. They're like, if we can pay someone, they're like, do you know anyone that crazy? And Hortensio says, I do know someone that crazy. His name's Petruchio. He's insane. And he wants to get married because he's lost all his money and all he cares about is money. They're like, so I'm going to go find Petruchio, let him know about Kate. Kate's beautiful. She's extremely rich, but she's horrible. She is the Shrew. And so they're going to pay him to come date her. So Hortensio goes and talks Petruchio into it. Then Hortensio dresses up as a school teacher. And when Petruchio shows up to woo Kate, he says, and I've got a music teacher for your daughters. So now Hortensio and Lucentio are living in the house as school teachers. Gremio and the fake Lucentio, his servant Tranio, are competing to get Bianca. Well, that was the hole in Hortensio's plan, because he thought he could get in there, get Bianca to fall in love with him, and then maybe run away with her. But there was nobody on the outside to negotiate with her father. Okay, so Lucentio's got both sides covered. Anyway, I know you're not keeping up because it is crazy. Because everybody's pretending to be someone they're not. And it gets worse. So, Petruchio shows up, and Kate hates him. And they scream and yell and fight, and it's a crazy, crazy courting. And when her father comes in, Petruchio says that they fell in love, and they're going to act like they hate each other. And he'll be back on their wedding day, get everything set up. And so no matter what Kate says, her father just believes that she fell in love with him. And so now Petruchio and Kate are getting married. On their wedding day, Petruchio shows up late. And when he does show up, he's dressed horrible. And during the wedding ceremony, he knocks the Bible out of the hands of the priest and drinks the communion wine and screams and yells and gives a big ridiculous kiss to Kate at the end of the ceremony. And then he refuses to let her stay for her own wedding reception. Well, their plot kind of goes a different direction at this point. He takes her to his house and he tames her. Okay? How does he tame her? He doesn't let her sleep or eat. Okay? He makes her walk most of the way back to his house because they were on a lame horse. And he will give her nothing unless she agrees with every word that he says. And so he's like, they bring in some dinner, and he's like, oh, this meat is burnt. She's like, what are you talking about? It's perfect. He's like, exactly, it's burnt, and he throws it away. They go to lay down to bed, and he's like, these beds aren't made right. She's like, these beds are made perfect. What are you talking about? And he tears off the sheets, and he says, you know what? I love you too much to make you sleep in a bed that isn't made right. We'll stay up all night. So he stays up all night. And so eventually, he has somebody bring in, they find out that her sister is going to be getting married, and he has someone bring in beautiful clothes for her to put on, and he says they're ugly. She says they're beautiful. So he tears them up. It just goes on until she finally catches on that if she supports him, if she agrees with whatever he says, she gets everything she wants. Okay? And so, like, when they're traveling back for her sister's wedding, he looks up and he's like, look at the moon. It's shining so bright. And she's like, no, it's the sun. And he's like, let's go home. And they start heading back. She's like, no, it's the moon. It's the moon. If you say it's the moon, it's the moon. If you say it's the sun, it's the sun. And it changes with your mind. It's whatever you say it is. And he's like, really? He's like, well, I think it's the sun. Let's go. And it's so funny because she's gotten to this point where she realizes that she just has to play his game. You know, she has to let him be in charge and support him. Which is tremendously sexist, and I understand that, but it's funny. Anyway, so they're going back because there's a wedding. Well, why is there a wedding? Well, now that Kate's married, Baptista says, listen, I am ready to let someone marry Bianca. Hortensio's inside the house. He doesn't get to be part of the negotiation. And so he's actually getting his instrument slammed over his head by Kate because he's trying to teach her to play the guitar. No, it's something else. Anyway, and so how is her father going to decide between Gremio and the fake Lucentio? Who Bianca loves the most? Who's going to treat her the best? No, it's who has the most money. Whoever has the most money gets to marry her. And so Gremio's like, well, I got lots of money. I got 3 houses. I got a boat. I got this. I got that. I got that. He's got all this money. And that's all hers when I die. That's good. What does Lucentio have? Lucentio is like, I have all that times 10. I'm extremely rich. I'm extremely rich. But his father's not dead. Vincentio. And so Baptista's like, well, here's what's up. If your father shows up and signs off saying that she will get everything if you die, then you get to marry her. If your father doesn't show up to sign off on all this, then Gremio gets to marry her. So now the fake Lucentio, Tranio, has to find a fake father. And so this guy's coming into town. And he asked him where he's from, and I don't remember where he's from. But he's like, oh my gosh, don't you know there's a feud between the leaders of your city and our city? And anybody from your city who's found in our city gets killed on sight? He's like, I didn't know that. He's like, I can hide you. I tell you what we'll do. I need you to just pretend. Why don't you pretend like you're my father? I'll tell everybody you're my dad. And you can go by the name Vincentio. My dad's really rich and powerful, and you just pretend to be my dad, and then you'll be safe. And so this guy thinks that he's hiding out for his life by pretending to be Vincentio. So now we got more confusion. So he goes in and talks to Baptista Minola and gives his permission for his son to marry, and it's not his son, and it's not even Lucentio because it's Lucentio's servant pretending to be Lucentio. And they're arranging all this. So they get the church all ready, and they decide they're going to go drink and party for a little while before they go in to have the wedding. At which point, the real Lucentio, who's been inside the house courting Bianca, sneaks to the church with a witness and gets married to Bianca while they're all inside. Yeah, so the rub comes when the real Vincentio comes to town to visit his son in college. And so there's a lot of chaos, a lot of funny stuff. And the whole last act of the play, the whole last act is 3 new husbands and wives having dinner together, and the men make a bet on whose wife is most obedient. Oh, yeah, I know. I saw that look, Claire. This play is humorous to watch. It's fun, but the different identities and the disguises can throw things off. It can make it complicated. And so, if you have to rewatch something, rewatch it. But at the bottom of each study guide, when you get them, is going to be this character guide that'll have all the characters set out kind of with the arrows pointing to how they're related to each other. You take advantage of that. And, just kind of realize, this play was, written, 600 years ago or whatever. And our feelings about women and stuff like that have definitely changed. And some of the speeches and attitudes that come through, it's not Shakespeare at his finest. Because truthfully, Shakespeare seems pretty open-minded when it comes to women. He has a lot of dynamic female characters who do really awesome things in his plays. But this play definitely is humorizing and satirizing some of the sexist attitudes of the time period. Okay. But overall, it's a fun play. And I think you're really going to enjoy it. There's a couple of things when you're watching, and I know that if you've watched the first part, you've already noticed that the chorus plays a very important part in this play. They're all dressed in white. They all have funny noses and funny hats, and they come on and play every other role that needs to be played, every little bit part. So they stand to the side, and there's several running gags that the director threw in. Like every time someone says Padua, everybody cheers. Every time someone mentions someone who has passed away, there's they take off their hats, and there's a ting noise when their hat hits their chest. And so there's several running gags that go on throughout this play, and it's just part of checking out how they stage a Shakespearean play, how they make it fun, how they make it interesting. And sometimes characters go off stage and don't go completely off stage, and then bounce back on. It's interesting to watch how they set it up. And, this was 1976, so it's not super modern. I mean, that's the year I was born. And so it's still, Shakespeare. It's performed well, and it's enjoyable to watch. All right. So enjoy.